So, if you've been keeping an eye on AI, you know things move at a breakneck speed. But every once in a while, you get a week where everything just accelerates. A week that feels like a real turning point, hinting that something massive is bubbling up right under the surface. What we just had one of those weeks, and it's all pointing to one thing: the AI agent is officially here.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Because the flood of announcements we saw in just a few days was, well, it was absolutely wild. This wasn't just one company making a cool new update. No, this felt like the entire industry took this giant, synchronized leap forward, and every single move revealed another piece of a much, much bigger puzzle.
It really kicked off on January 20th. That's when Notion announced that its AI agent, the one that can build entire databases and forms just from a simple request, is now fully up and running on your phone. So suddenly, the power to delegate some really complex work isn't just on your laptop anymore. Nope, it's right there in your pocket wherever you go. Then, boom, February 2nd hits and OpenAI drops the Codex app. And listen, this is not just another coding assistant. They are literally calling it a command center for agents. It's a brand new, super powerful tool made to manage whole teams of AI coders, all working on your projects at the same time. Think about that. We're not talking about a single helper anymore. We're talking about managing an entire AI workforce. And then, the very next day, Apple jumps into the ring. They announce a native integration of Anthropic's Claude agent right inside of Xcode. This is a huge deal because it gives developers an autonomous coding partner that lives inside their most important tool. It's a massive signal that agents aren't just some add-on anymore. They're becoming a core part of how we actually create things. And as if that wasn't already a crazy enough week, on the exact same day, Elon Musk announces this mega merger between xAI and SpaceX. He created a $1.25 trillion company with a goal that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie: launching AI data centers into orbit to solve the insane energy problem that the whole industry is facing. I mean, this timeline just puts it all into perspective, right? The speed here is just nuts. In basically 2 weeks, we saw these massive moves in productivity, in software development, and in deep, deep infrastructure. It's an absolute boom, and it feels like every major player is racing to plant their flag. So, what's the one thread that connects all of this? Notion, OpenAI, Apple, even SpaceX's wild orbital plans. Well, it's all about this new class of AI, one that's basically graduating from being a handy little tool to being a full-on autonomous coworker, the AI agent. And this is the big question, right? We've all gotten pretty used to chatbots, to things like ChatGPT. You ask a question, you get an answer. It's a conversation. So what makes an agent so different? What's the big deal? Well, here's the absolute key difference. An agent doesn't just sit there and wait for your next command. You give it a big, high-level goal, and it figures out all the steps on its own. It makes a plan, it executes that plan, and it just keeps working until the job is done. You don't have to hold its hand. It's a doer, not just a talker. What's so interesting here is the massive shift in how we think about this stuff. We're moving away from a reactive tool that we have to operate step by step to a proactive worker that we can just delegate to. Honestly, it's the difference between asking for a recipe versus having a chef actually cook you dinner. Okay, so this isn't just theory, right? Let's talk about how these things are actually getting to work in the real world. Because believe me, these agents are already tackling tasks so complex they would have been unthinkable just a year ago. So let's take OpenAI's new Codex app. As a demo, they gave it one single detailed prompt: build a complete 3D racing game from scratch. And the agent just went to work completely on its own, using over 7 million tokens of context to get the project done. That's a massive amount of information for it to hold in its head at one time. And this is where it gets really wild, because this shows you how they work. It didn't just spit out a bunch of code. First, it broke down the goal. Then it generated all the assets. And then, and this is the incredible part, it acted as its own QA tester. It literally played the game it just built to find bugs, and then it fixed them by itself. And at the very same time, Anthropic's Claude agent, the one inside Apple's Xcode, is doing something just as mind-blowing.
As this quote gets at, it's not just looking at a single line of code or the one file you have open. No, it sees the whole blueprint, the entire architecture of the app, which lets it make these really smart, sophisticated changes across the entire project.
You know what happens when there's a huge tech breakthrough like this, right? The gold rush begins. And it's no surprise that this radical new capability is sparking a massive new economy. There is some serious money being thrown around to get agentic AI into big business.
And I mean, this isn't some tiny little experiment. This is big, big business. You don't have to look any further than the massive $200 million deal that was just signed between OpenAI and the data giant Snowflake. Their goal? To build AI agents that can work directly on a company's most valuable asset, its data.
And adoption? It's about to explode. A recent survey of IT leaders showed that right now, about a quarter of the top IT teams are already on board. But get this. Another 38% are gearing up to jump in very soon. That is a huge wave of interest building for these autonomous systems.
But this is where the story gets a little more complicated. Because with all this incredible new power comes a whole new set of very real risks. See, when you give an AI the power to act on its own, you also give it the power to make mistakes on its own. And when an autonomous worker makes a mistake, the fallout can be, well, pretty big.
A perfect and pretty recent example comes from an experiment called Moltzbook. So check this out. It was set up to be like Reddit, but for AI agents. Humans could send their agents there to post, to comment, and even team up on tasks with more than 1.5 million other agents. And on the surface, it was just fascinating. It was weirdly cute, right? You had agents creating their own inside jokes, forming unions, even gossiping about their human owners. It felt like this quirky little peek into what a future AI society might look like. But then, less than a week in, it all came crashing down. A security flaw accidentally exposed the private messages and email addresses of over 6,000 of those human owners. It was just this stark, sudden reminder of how fast things can go wrong when you deploy autonomous systems without rock-solid guardrails. And this whole Moltzbook mess, it's more than just a security scare. It really gets to the heart of a huge debate that's starting to brew. And that question is, who does an AI agent actually work for? This is splitting the industry into two very different camps. You have one philosophy, from companies like Anthropic, that says the agent works only for you, the user. It's ad-free, you pay a subscription. Then there's the other path, ad-supported models, where an agent's loyalties might be split between serving you and serving an advertiser. So the bottom line here is that we are standing at a major crossroads. The decisions that are being made right now about security, about incentives, about control, these aren't just small technical details. We are literally writing the rulebook for what might become a brand new foundational layer of our digital world. We're moving so fast from a world where we just use the internet as a tool to one where we are going to share it with a whole population of autonomous digital workers. And that leaves us with a really provocative final thought to chew on. Our whole digital world, everything about it, was designed and built for people, for humans. So what happens when millions of these autonomous agents start living there too?